Stand up.
Hey friends, it's Monday, and what I've got for you right now is a clip show extraordinaire. And I thought, well, I put a lot of work into flagging these clips and recording them. I should share them. Some of them are timeless today. I will be talking with Mark Quint around noon East live if you are a subscriber on YouTube and Substack. So check that out. Probably more guests today, tomorrow, and in the next few days. Although, I don't know when I'll be posting. Schedule's off again this week because my parents are in town and Julia is graduating from high school Tuesday night. So it's a pretty big, busy couple of days here at the beginning of the week. But I'll get the conversations and show out at some point in some version. So thank you very much for your patience and support. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope maybe if you celebrated Father's Day that it was nice. Mine certainly was, even though Ava is in Europe across the ocean. She sent me the greatest letter a dad could receive from his 21-year-old daughter. Guess that's all I'll say about it, other than just I feel enough. On Father's Day, I feel satisfied that I have been and done enough for my girls. And that is a wonderful feeling. That's the feeling I have strived for their whole lives, and I just want to acknowledge it's the feeling that I think I've achieved and that they have acknowledged that I have. And so it feels wonderful to just be enough, and even better to acknowledge that and say it to myself and write about it, share it with you. And I hope that that is something that you have felt on or off or consistently if you're a parent. And if it hasn't, there's still time. Don't leave anything unsaid is a rule I try to live by most of the time. I keep thinking about that sign someone sent to me. Who was it? Please remind me and forgive me for not remembering. That said, you give your kids two things: roots and wings. I think about that a lot. I've written it down. And so thank you. I thought that was helpful. Wanted to mention and reshare that idea. Anyway, it was a great Father's Day. I hope that if yours was sad because yours is gone, or you don't have kids and you think Father's Day is dumb, then that point of view is welcome and reasonable here. Also, the point of view about, just want to throw this out there, that fireworks are terrible. We're upon Independence Day, just a couple weeks away, I guess, and just quickly say I hate them. I think they're bad, and go over to my Facebook page where my very good friend Ken Zatz, Dr. Zatz, who I hike with every Wednesday, who is an animal rights guy and just absolutely cares so much about animals. He has a fish in his doctor's office named Winston, two fish, actually, and he goes in on the weekend and feeds them. He loves them, his cats, his dogs, everything. He's just a wonderful guy and loves animals and doesn't eat them and just hates fireworks for that reason alone. There's plenty else that he writes about it, posts. The bees get disoriented. It sucks. Fireworks suck. Don't support them. Don't buy them. If you do, you do. I'm not going to disinvite you to the barbecue, but bees become so disoriented they don't go back to their hives. Birds have panic attacks at night, causing mass deaths. Wild animals raising babies abandon their dens in fear. Fish and other animals perish after ingesting firework debris. Companion animals have anxiety and panic attacks, and humans have PTSD. Hashtag silent fireworks. Yeah, so there you go. I'll be ranting about that as well in the next couple of days. And if you want to argue, that should be entertaining. So as always, when I give a strong opinion on something that's certainly not life or death, except for all those species I just mentioned, then you disagree, email me, standupwithpete@gmail.com, and I will read it on the air likely, especially if you want to stand up for fireworks. Well, I've got some clips for you. The headlines here on Monday, June 22nd. First of all, yesterday, the summer solstice. Happy summer. The longest day of the year means each day between now and December 21st is going to get just a minute or so shorter until the sun sets at 4 in the afternoon. And I don't mind that either, but I'm going to enjoy these long days, and I hope that you are as well. 3 headlines I did see here on Monday morning are that Alan Greenspan died, the former Fed chairman, died at 100, and a lot of criticism that will be piled upon him during his obituary. I'm sure. I haven't read it. I just saw this headline, and a couple of you sent me texts celebrating his death, which I thought was mean. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, has announced that he will be resigning. He's going to step down as leader of the Labour Party And the new party's most popular politician is a guy named Andy Burnham. I was just reading about him. He seems interesting. They get a new prime minister every couple months there. They're in quite a disarray since 2016. It would seem a lot of the same problems that we have here, of course. Latest headline on the U.S.-Iran talks, J.D. Vance points to progress after renewed U.S.-Iran talks. Impossible to keep track of those talks and what, if anything, is getting accomplished, not to mention the palace intrigue and gossip around all of it. But what an absolute disgrace and mess it has all been ever since Trump 1 broke the Obama-Iran deal, the JCPOA, and has been trying to cobble something similar back together, but now it's too late and Iran is empowered and learned that they control the Strait of Hormuz. By the way, just to be clear, like the solution here, if it was never more obvious, is renewable energy. Be the primary producers of renewable energy. Gas and oil still has stranglehold on the Republican Party, almost entirely Republican, some Democrats as well from those oil and gas producing states. But that is the foreign policy solution of our time. And it has been for the last 3 decades or more. But as long as we are depending on oil from that part of the world, and any other countries as well, they are going to have that power. Clearly, they've just flexed their muscles and proven it. All right, well, let's get to the clips that I've got. I got some really good clips, including Joy Reid shared this clip of Lawrence Fishburne reading a slave's letter after he was emancipated. And it's just, I never saw it. And it's so moving and actually funny and smart and righteous. And I just loved watching over the weekend. And I'm excited to share that with you. But of course, let's start with this first clip of the Italian prime minister, who our commander in chief has, of course, never earned the respect of. You know, I don't want to say too many good things about this woman. I think that she is fascist or fascist adjacent in Italy, and she's this kind of Christian conservative, so on. But nonetheless, she's done, and she's going public with how she has probably always felt privately, as have all European and world leaders about this guy. But here's the translation. You heard about this. Trump said that she was begging me to get a picture. Well, she answered, and here's the translation of it.
So certain things deserve an immediate response. Donald Trump's statements are completely made up. I am frankly stunned. I don't know why the President of the United States behaves this way with his own allies. It's not the first time this has happened, after all. I can only say it's a shame. He doesn't show the same determination with the enemies of the West, with the enemies of the United States, with leaders with whom instead he proves to be much more accommodating. But he must remember one thing. Italy and I never beg.
Yeah, well, that was just the first salvo. They've been going back and forth. It's ridiculous and pathetic and embarrassing as it is, but that's why I probably should have started with something a little lighter and funnier. So here is the actress Kerry Washington on Seth Meyers' late night with Seth Meyers on NBC. And I love this exchange that they had. It was very funny. It sounds like a lot of us talking at our hangouts.
You know, my oldest is 10, and then we have an 8-year-old, and they curse all the time. And
they
my wife,
do?
Yeah, but my wife...
That's white people's houses.
Yeah.
Black people do not. They curse all the time. That would never stand in my house.
The worst is they curse the way I curse, so they don't, like, yell it. Like, the other day, my, like, son just, like, banged his knee when he sat down. He just went...
No!
Yeah.
No!
Yeah.
No.
Maybe
my kids get like scared when they hear me curse.
Please come live with you guys for like a year?
Your kids are so cute, but then my kids will start cursing.
Oh yeah.
I'm always like, honestly, my kids come home from other people's houses, and I'm like, we don't talk like that.
Yeah.
Don't be talking like those white people's houses. Don't come home talking to me like that.
Oh my God! Well, I really learned something about white people, and it's not good.
All right, I love that. And I thought that might make you smile there as we get into these more serious and upsetting clips. Here is Danny Bensky. She is one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. She was on the Midas Touch Network, a show called The Intersection, demanding accountability. And these women are not going away, and we should continue to platform them. So here she is.
okay, pulling them back in, then what does that do? And it's like, well, there's always the last stop is always going to be the DOJ. And so when you have somebody like Todd Blanche at the helm of the DOJ, it's hugely problematic, right? Like, he has the president's best interest. He does not have the American people's best interest at heart. And he's proven that. He was in that situation room. He needs to be called in and questioned. He needs to be in front of the Oversight Committee now to answer, how, like, we also know that he was responsible for so many botched redactions and how this rollout even happened. And botched is like an understatement, by the way. But he's responsible for a lot of this. I mean, Bondi, I'm not letting her off the hook. She definitely had something to do with this too. But we know that Todd Blanche had a lot to do with this, and he moved Ghislaine Maxwell. So, like, there's so many things here that come back to Blanche, and now he is the nomination. And that's like, he's so unfit to be the acting attorney general of our country. I can't even, my brain words fail me. So.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff from brave Danny Bensky. Well done. All right. Let's go to New York, where the mayor is on the campaign trail. Democratic primary. Big day here in New York. Big culmination in my district, New York 17, where there's 7 candidates running. I've really tried to stay out of it because of the personal relationships I have with at least two of the candidates, and I think that any of them, the front runners, will make a good candidate and hopefully beat Mike Lawler. But of course, there are primaries and districts in New York City as well that are getting a lot of attention. Here's Mayor Mamdani. He's on the campaign trail supporting those who supported him. I think it's fair to say, although there is some question and he's burning some bridges with some more moderate allies that supported him, I guess. But here he is yesterday making some somewhat controversial remarks, according to some people, apparently, about AIPAC, the Israeli lobby organization's influence on particularly Democratic lawmakers.
And we need that because, as Gramsci once wrote, the old world is dying and the new world struggles to be born. Now is the time of monsters. These monsters take many forms today. In those who fund television ads that blanket the airwaves with misleading and bad faith attacks about Claire, Brad, and Dari. Those who would rather spend far more on political contributions than they would ever be made to pay in taxes. In AIPAC, for whom the only thing more frightening than democracy being allowed to run its course is an end to genocide and Netanyahu's wars. They move millions in dark money to accomplish a single goal: to preserve their power so that they can turn us against one another, instead of our leaders turning towards the moral change we all know to be necessary. In a politics that for too long has asked working people to lower their expectations, to settle for less, to become satisfied with small victories while our wages grow even smaller and our costs grow even larger. To resign ourselves to resignation, to accept the unacceptable. In the wealthiest city, in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we need not live in fear of monsters any longer.
All right. So people taking issue with the phrase monsters, I guess, and feeling like it might be anti-Semitic. And yeah, I don't think it was great. I don't think that was a great choice of words, but based on if he's specifically referring to the Israeli government policy and what they have done in Gaza and now Lebanon, as well as Iran, I don't know how you can see them as any other. Dehumanizing people, especially those who have been dehumanized themselves, is something I walk a pretty fine line on. It made me uncomfortable, but I'd love to hear your take on it. All right, here's Pete Buttigieg. I thought this is really good. He is clearly running for president and taking a strong stance on an important issue that I think every candidate is going to have to take. How do we reform PAC, the Supreme Court? Do we add justices? Are you for that? Are you wishy-washy? Are you clear? Well, Buttigieg is very clear, it would seem.
We have to deal with money in politics. We have to deal with a Supreme Court that is now a rogue Supreme Court. To see them eviscerate the Voting Rights Act is to see them reverse some of the most important progress this country ever made. wiping out black political representation, but also wiping out part of what actually is great within the complex American story. The fact that this country was able to face down its demons, which is what the Voting Rights Act responded to. Just like the 14th Amendment responded to this country facing down its darkest demons. Talking about that isn't disparaging America, which is what this administration would want you to believe. Talking about that is honoring what was greatest about America, which was our capacity to overcome that. And now we've had this leap back from a rogue Supreme Court. When I was running for president about...
Now there are some really progressive ideas about handling that rogue Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. What do you think about some of those?
I think it's time to think big.
Including increasing the number of justices?
Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that there have to be 9 Supreme Court justices. That one doesn't even take a constitutional amendment. It just takes a readiness to set up a court that fits this country. We could have 13 seats matching the district structure of the federal judiciary, but also a process that makes it less partisan. We cannot have partisan warfare every time there's an opening on the court. So I think term limits would help, but I don't think they go far enough. So that's one branch of government.
Yeah, wow. How about it? There you go. I got a couple Tallaricos and a couple Oshoffs for you. Tallarico is on, I think, his MS Now, and he's got this perfect message, the way that he's framed it. And this is, I mean, excellent political messaging because his opponent, this dirtbag, James Paxton, I thought I don't dehumanize people. All right, specific people. This guy's a dirtbag. James Paxton, right? And apparently he let a pedophile go. And the pedophile's name is now being made famous in this perfectly executed political messaging by James Tallarico.
Adam Hoffman, an admitted child molester, should have served 25 years to life in prison, but instead he served less than 29 days. And that's because Ken Paxton gave him an Epstein-style sweetheart deal. Adam Hoffman didn't even have to register as a sex offender in Texas after admitting to molesting a child, an 8-year-old boy. That's how good the sweetheart deal was for Adam Hoffman. And so that's why today I called on Ken Paxton and his office to release the Hoffman files. All text messages, all emails, internal memos, all documents relating to the Hoffman case so that Texans can get their questions answered about this corrupt deal. The truth has to come out. The Epstein class has no place in Texas. And if there's one thing that we can all still agree on, Democrats, independents, and Republicans alike, it's that no one, including the Attorney General of Texas, should be able to cover up crimes against children.
Yeah. I mean, that messaging and the Adam Hoffman files messaging is going to just resonate every day. More and more people will hear that and hear it repeated over and over. And Paxton, if he decides to defend it, will be talking about the issue and making it worse. That guy is pretty good at politicking, that's for sure. Also, so is this guy. Jon Ossoff gets out of his car, and now TMZ has a Capitol Hill or Washington correspondent, and it's like, as you would expect it, a dum-dum who's trying to ask more salacious questions. In this case, he really wants Jon Ossoff to respond to Donald Trump calling him a name. And instead, Ossoff just delivers the same message twice, does not play the stupid game of the TMZ reporter, but still does it in a likable way. Here's how it went.
Senator, Jacob here with TMZ. How's it going?
All good.
So I don't know if you saw, but last night, Donald Trump went on Truth Social and he called you a failed Democrat and then has a new nickname for you. He called you Os Jerkoff. Your response to that?
He is a disgraced president, humiliated on the world stage by his failed war, raking in billions for himself and his family while he makes you pay more for gas, for groceries, and for healthcare. Mm-hmm. And if you want to help me defeat his Trump puppet opponent, it's electjohn.com.
Well, the nickname, like, I talk to a lot of people on Capitol Hill. Everyone likes to kind of put on a brave face, but I feel like when you get called a name, it's like kind of offensive. Like when you saw that, were you like, did it hurt your feelings at all? Like it would for me maybe, I'm just curious.
I don't care about nicknames. What I care is that we have a disgraced president, humiliated globally for his failed war, who's making Americans pay more for gas and groceries and health care while he and his family rake in billions of dollars. And again, if folks want to help me defeat his hand-picked puppet candidate in Georgia, it's electjon.com.
Got you. So do you feel like he's targeting you because of the election coming up?
I think that he is forcing Americans to pay more for everything, while he and his family make billions of dollars as he sits in the Oval Office, and he faces global humiliation for failed war in the Middle East.
You don't feel like you need to come up with like a name, a nickname?
I'm good.
Against it? You're good on it?
Thank you, my brother.
All right. Thank you very much.
Take
I
care.
appreciate it.
Yeah, well done by Ossoff. If he had it to do over again, I think he could have said, "No, I don't need to come up with a put down name for him because I am a grown man. I'm all grown up, adult man, and that is dishonorable and childish and gross." But he said what he said. Let's go back to James Tallarico being asked a tough question about a name he gets called as well on MS Now.
Attacks on your masculinity, on lies about your sexuality, attacks on your partner. They've been like on a level 10, 12.
Sure.
Paxton has even begun to call you Low T Tallarico. What's your response to that?
Honestly, I had to look up what that meant. I don't think guys my age are really concerned about that kind of thing. But I think that these nicknames and these personal attacks don't actually meet the needs of Texas, right? Everywhere I go across the state, all I hear about is how folks are drowning, how those ends at the end of the month never seem to meet, and how people can't get by, they can't afford the basics, groceries and gas and insurance and prescription drugs, the things we need to survive. And they're looking desperately for elected leaders who are actually going to solve their problems. And so when you see Ken Paxton and the Republican Party attacking me personally, attacking my girlfriend, attacking my church and my pastor, I think it exposes the fact that they have no clue how to get this economy back on track. They have no solutions to lower people's costs and raise their pay. So if they have no affirmative argument to make the voters, I think that is a good sign for our chances in November.
Oh, good answer by Tallarico. I just love that he says, I had to look up what low T meant because only people, he was insinuating, only people who have low T know what that is. But since my T is high, I don't. All right, let's go back to Senator Jon Ossoff, who was campaigning, I guess you could say, at a black church in Atlanta, a Baptist church there.
The moral and political crisis that afflicts our nation today. We see a faithless president, self-dealing while he depicts himself as Christ, while he depicts the Obamas as apes. Did you see that? While he plunges the nation recklessly into war, plunders our health care, and sends prices soaring. And while the people pay more than ever for groceries and housing and health care, he builds a monument to himself. While a cancer patient loses health coverage, he adorns his office in gold. Have you seen it? Voting rights laws are dismantled. Prisons for immigrants are full of children. And all the while, we see this wickedness advanced and defended by those who wrap themselves in the banner of righteous faith. But we ask, where in Scripture are we commanded to deny care to the sick? To take from those with the least, to give to those with the most? To violate the house of worship, to hunt down the refugee?
All right, Jon Ossoff, sorry about that little internet blurpity burp, but you get the picture. So good at that Black Church Baptist Church in Atlanta. All right, now All right, now I've got 3 clips or reactions commentary on the whole conversation about Iran and what is happening and this awful deal, this surrender of our dear leader. First, this take, a bad one, Michael Smerconish on CNN, as always, trying to bend over backwards to be, quote, fair, but really, this isn't at all about fairness. If he does it, I would be willing to give Trump credit. This is so beyond, we're so far beyond that kind of framing and conversation here. You're going to give him credit for putting out a fire that he started? It's preposterous, which is why it's an even worse take than the next one, which comes from Ted Cruz. Yeah, Smerconish on CNN, worse than Ted Cruz. But the best take comes from comedian and satirist, British comedian and satirist Jonathan Pye, and that is coming up. But first to this real bad take from Smerconish with Pamela Brown on CNN.
As always on this Friday, what's your read on the situation and this memorandum of understanding, Michael?
Too soon to tell. I think that some of the criticism of President Trump comes from the category of if Trump's for it, then certain people think they've got to be against it. I'm not saying that I find everything acceptable in those 14 points. It's point number 8 that troubles me the most. It's particularly vague about the enriched uranium, which is my chief concern. But I guess I would ask this question of people who out of the gate are critical and saying that it's a mistake. Maybe it's the worst possible outcome except for the alternatives. Are you prepared to put American boots on the ground for a different result, to open the strait by force or to go get the so-called nuclear dust? It's really complicated. I just don't think we're going to know until more time goes off the clock and we see what the final agreement looks like.
And there's certainly always this dynamic, right, where if Trump's for it, there will be people who come out against it, particularly Democrats. But I mean, we are seeing a fair number of Republicans who are usually always aligned with the president coming out against this. Senator Tom Cotton, Senator Ted Cruz, Senator Joni Ernst. They've been critical or raised serious questions about it. Does that surprise you?
Pamela, you're absolutely right. And you don't stop with the legislators. The Wall Street Journal, called it a retreat. The New York Post, normally in his corner. Among those who've been critical, I think they identified 5 different provisions of the 14 that they thought were problematic. So, yeah, I share the concern that says maybe after all this effort since February 28, we're not going to get the result that we wanted. If in the end, however, the result is they really can't have a nuclear weapon and we are in control of the enriched uranium, I'm willing to give the president credit for that outcome.
In your view, would that be better? Do you think that they're able to get to a better place than the JCPOA? What's the likelihood in your view?
That's a really interesting question. I would have liked to have seen that play out. There was still time on the clock. I thought that the intent that President Obama had is very similar. This is the worst thing that President Trump could ever hear, but that he seems to be on the same page with President Obama in that each sought to bring Iran into the Western world and to make them part more of the global community. That's where they both seem to have ended up. And maybe we should have just allowed that to play itself out instead of tearing up the JCPOA.
Why are he finally lands at the decently right point, but why are we asking him any questions? I play that as an exercise because this guy has been fashioning himself as a moderate forever. I know Michael. He was good to me. I was good to him. At SiriusXM, we're in the same channel, and this isn't personal, really. Maybe it's a little personal because I just don't like the style. I take great issue with it, and people who are, in my opinion, kind of purposely, quote, moderate or, quote, independent. It's Paul Reichoff does the same game, and I just do not buy it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it that they necessarily believe it. I think they're just looking for an audience. And so is this guy, because he's got a podcast and he's a senator, but here he is, Ted Cruz, savaging Trump and the Iran question.
Yeah, our last podcast, we talked about the rumors that were swirling about what might be in the Iran deal. The administration has now released the memorandum of understanding that has been signed, and so we know the text of it. And as we said in the last podcast, it was highly concerning. And it turns out every bit of those rumors were accurate, and what was being circulated was in fact what was in it. I believe the president is getting very poor advice on this, and history teaches a very simple proposition, which is that giving billions of dollars to theocratic lunatics who want to murder us is a very, very bad idea.
Yeah.
This deal envisions funneling $300 billion to the Ayatollah and the Islamic regime in Iran. I think that is that would be a very serious mistake. I think if the Ayatollah gets $300 billion, that money will be used to fund terrorism and to murder Americans. And so it is very much my hope that the administration goes down a different path, that they choose not to send money to the Ayatollah. In my view, we shouldn't send a penny to the Ayatollah, and sending $300 billion would be, I think, enormously dangerous.
How about that? A little bit of consistency from Ted Cruz, but still better commentary, I think, than Michael Smerconish before him. So maybe Mike wants to catch up on what's the middle ground. And finally, on this issue, it's a 5-minute clip from comedian Tom Walker, who plays this kind of fictional character, Jonathan Pye. He's got like 1 million followers on YouTube. It's so good. It's and both hilarious, but also a kind of journalistic aggregation of the timeline of events and the back and forth of this comical and evil person we've got running our lives and show. Anyway, here it is, Jonathan Pye. It's 5 minutes. It gets better and better, in my opinion. Totally worth listening to today's clip show, if not for Lawrence Fishburne Reed, who better coming up. But here he is. And I think the bit here is he's reporting to the anchor back in the studio as kind of a more serious correspondent, moderated. Then he becomes more honest as soon as they go off the air, takes off his tie, and starts his rant. So good. Jonathan Pye.
More than 100 days after US and Israeli bombs began falling on Iran, both sides are claiming victory, a sign perhaps of how much both sides needed a way out. Back to you, Sophie. Thank you. It's interesting, isn't it, that Trump signed this deal in Versailles, you know, the location of another famous humiliating total capitulation. But, you know, of course, Trump will spin this as a massive success because he's got form in declaring he's won when clearly he hasn't. But this war was a success in the same way that paying $14 million to have large chunks of blue paint floating in an algae-infested reflecting pool was money well spent. The truth is, the United States has rarely looked weaker and Iran has rarely looked stronger, having now worked out that if anyone doesn't do exactly what they want them to, they'll just close the Strait of Hormuz and they've got the whole world by the ball bags. We went from week 1, I will win, victory will be easier than that time I kidnapped the president of Venezuela, to week 2, I won, to week 3, why aren't you helping me win, to week 4, I don't need your help to win, but if you don't help me win, I'm going to destroy NATO. Week 5, if you don't let me win, I'll annihilate an entire civilization. It's quite a feat to give the Iranian regime the moral high ground, but luckily Donald Trump shattered the illusion of American morality a long time ago. Week 6, we're winning, and to prove it, here's an AI picture of me dressed as Jesus. Week 7, the Pope is a soy-filled woke Guardian reader. Week 8, I'm getting bored now. Weeks 9 through to 14, really bored now, and I've got ballrooms to build and cage fights on the White House lawn to organise, and 4 months later, victory! Thank you very much. Where's my peace prize? And if the rest of the G7 can just clear up the mess and pay the bill, that would be great. The outcome was always inevitable, but, you know, it's been fun to watch. Most of Trump's posts on Truth Social around the conflict have sounded less like the leader of the free world and more like a 14-year-old boy who's the only one left in the class not to have fingered anyone. One particular highlight being on Easter Sunday when Trump went on to Truth Social to write, "Open the fucking strait, you crazy bastards," which are the words of a true diplomat with supreme control of the situation. He then spent some time at the White House Easter egg roll where he gave a speech to a bunch of bemused primary school children about how he's thinking of starting World War III in Iran and Joe Biden's auto pen. But this conflict hasn't all been plain sailing. Trump got really angry with the UK and Spain and Canada, Australia, Italy. In fact, anyone who raised any objections to this gross example of imperial overreach was branded a coward. It was as if he felt like we should all be grateful that his latest piece of American expansionism didn't involve making Canada the 51st state or carpet bombing the sleepy village of Greenland. Perhaps if you want your allies to be good allies, then maybe start treating us like allies. Don't bully your allies or slam illegal tariffs on your allies or interfere with their elections by overtly promoting far-right parties across Europe whilst hurling insults at our leaders and threatening to invade allied sovereign territory and then demand we come to your aid just because you started a war because one, Benjamin Netanyahu told you to, and two, to distract from the fact that you appear in the Epstein files more times than Jesus is mentioned in the Bible. But at least someone did all right out of this whole thing. Well, for me, the highlight of the whole shit show was the $2.1 billion in bets placed minutes before presidential announcements about the war in Iran. $2.1 billion in perfectly timed directional oil trades placed across 5 presidential announcements in a single month, which is completely unprecedented and so far completely uninvestigated. $2.1 billion. Under any other administration, this would be a scandal unlike any other in modern history. Instead, we're all completely dazzled, me included, by Trump posting AI images of himself as Jesus, or posting AI images of himself as James Bond, or the Mandalorian. He likes cosplay. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. He cosplays being a president most.
Oh, yeah, so good. There it is. 5 minutes. I hope you liked it. I thought it was so good. I loved it. I loved it a lot. But what I most loved seeing, I think, over the weekend, because everybody was sharing Juneteenth-related stuff, Joy Reid shared this performance, I guess you could call it, this reading that Lawrence Fishburne did to set it up. It's 1864. Jordan Anderson and his wife escaped a life of slavery, moved to Ohio. A year later, he receives a desperate letter from the man who used to own him, in which he was asked to return to work on his now alien plantation. And Jordan's magnificent reply, performed by none other than Lawrence Fishburne at Letters Live at the Town Hall in New York back in 2018, was dictated by Jordan and reprinted in numerous newspapers at the time. By the way, Jordan Anderson never returned to Big Spring, Texas. He passed away in 1907, aged 81, buried alongside his wife and 11 children.
To my old master. The letter. Dayton, Ohio, August 7th. 1865. To my old master, Colonel P.H. Anderson, Big Spring, Tennessee. Sir, I got your letter and was glad to find that you had not forgotten Jordan and that you wanted me to come back and live with you again, promising to do better for me than anyone else can. I have often felt uneasy about you. I thought the Yankees would have hung you before this. For harboring Rebs that they found at your house. I suppose they never heard about your going to Colonel Martin's to kill the Union soldier that was left by his company in their stable. Although you shot at me twice before I left you, I did not want to hear of your being hurt and am glad that you are still living. It would do me good to go back to dear old home again and see Miss Mary and Miss Martha, Alan, Esther, Green, and Lee. Give my love to them all and tell them I hope we will meet in the better world, if not in this. I would have gone back to see you all when I was working in the Nashville hospital, but one of the neighbors told me that Henry intended to shoot me if he ever got a chance. I want to know particularly what the good chance is you propose to give me. I am doing tolerably well here. I get $25 a month with victuals and clothing, have a comfortable home for Mandy. The folks call her Mrs. Anderson. And the children, Millie, Jane, and Grundy, go to school and are learning well. The teacher says that Grundy has a head for a preacher. They go to Sunday school, and Mandy and me attend church regularly. We are kindly treated. Sometimes we overhear others saying, them colored people were slaves down in Tennessee. The children, they feel hurt when they hear such remarks, but I tell them, it was no disgrace in Tennessee to belong to Colonel Anderson. Many darkies would have been proud, as I used to be, to call you master. Now, if you will write and say what wages you will give me, I will better be able to decide whether it would be to my advantage to move back again. As to my freedom, which you say I can have, well, there's nothing to be gained on that score. As I got my free papers in 1864 from the Provost Marshal General of the Department of Nashville. Mandy says she would be afraid to go back without some proof that you were disposed to treat us kindly and justly. And we have concluded to test your sincerity by asking you to send us our wages for the time that we served you. This will make us forget and forgive old scores and rely on your justice and friendship in the future. I served you faithfully for 32 years and Mandy 20 years. At $25 a month for me, $2 a week for Mandy, our earnings would amount to $11,680. Add this, the interest for the time of our wages have been kept back, and deduct what you paid for our clothing and 3 doctor visits for me, pulling a tooth for Mandy, and the balance will show what we are in justice entitled to. Please send the money by Adams Express in care of V. Winters, Esquire, Dayton, Ohio. If you fail to pay us for our faithful labors in the past, we can have little faith in your promises in the future. We trust the good Maker has opened your eyes to the wrongs which you and your fathers have done to me and my fathers in making us toil for you for generations without recompense. Here I draw my wages every Saturday night, but in Tennessee, there was never any payday for the Negroes any more than for the horses and cows. Surely there will be a day of reckoning for those who defraud the laborer of his hire. In answering this letter, please state if there would be any safety for my Millie and Jane, who are now grown up and both good-looking girls. You know how it was with poor Matilda and Catherine. I would rather stay here and starve and die if it came to that, than to have my girls brought to shame and violence by the wickedness of their young masters. You will also please state if there have been any schools open for the colored children in your neighborhood. The great desire of my life now is to give my children an education and have them form virtuous habits. Say howdy to George Carter and thank him for taking the pistol from you when you were shooting at me. Your old servant, Jordan Anderson.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did over the weekend. Wanted to share that. And I like to think that's the kind of benefit and bonus you get here on the Clip Show, that I find clips you might have never seen or heard and share them here, aggregate them. It's kind of like an ADD broadcast in a way, giving you a bunch of different folks saying different things about important issues that I think impact all of us, one way to describe it. I like to start and end it with the comedy. Don't always nail it, but here is Jimmy Kimmel on Jimmy Kimmel Live. I think this is Friday night. Talking about all the celebrities that showed up at the opening of the presidential library for President Obama, of course. And compare that, by the way, obviously, to the celebrities that show up for Dictator Don. I mean, could you even call any of them celebrities or just washed up seashells?
All the celebrities who weren't in New York for the parade showed up in Chicago today for the grand opening of the Obama Presidential Center. Look at this lineup of musicians. Bruce Springsteen, Christina Aguilera, Common, Eddie Vedder, Jennifer Hudson, John Legend, Mark Anthony, Marseille Martin, The Roots, Stevie Wonder, Thames, Bono, and The Edge. I guess they couldn't get Vanilla Ice. What a bunch of losers. All the living presidents were on hand, minus one, of course. Bill and Hillary Clinton showed up. George and Laura Bush were there. Oop, be careful there, President Bush. Joe Biden and Jill Biden were at the event. Sasha and Malia were there to support their mom and dad. And, of course, Barack and Michelle, which Donald Trump was not invited to the ceremony, which is a shame because the Obama Center has a library, a vegetable garden, a gym, so many things Trump has never seen. Obama gave a speech. He did not mention the orange one, and neither did Michelle, though she did manage to land a subtle little jab while listing her husband's many accomplishments.
Ending a war, ordering the bin Laden raid, saving an auto industry, winning a peace prize. Keeping us safe from Ebola, regulating the banks.
She's explaining it to Bill. We just saw the moment Hillary's edible kicked in. I miss seeing people who smile run the country. Meanwhile, there's no smiling in Trump land right now. Donald Trump is having a really bad week after this dummy of a deal he signed off on. Even his own side is against him on this. Trump should renege. Iran deal faces backlash from conservative allies. And that's not from MSNBC. That's from the liberal Democrats over at Fox News. Trump got a copy of this memorandum of understanding they came up with last night during his dinner with French President Emmanuel Macron. You can see here he is putting his little Don Hancock on the Treaty of Versailles. Unfortunately, that's the dessert menu he signed, so he got a macaroon to go.
All right, how about it? 46 minutes of clips. What did you think? Was that worth your time? Maybe I'll just do that more often or differently or start to do that on video if I can ever figure out how that would work. It's hard. It's a lot more work when you're doing video and making the clips pop up and rolling on them and so on. But if you liked that, let me know. If you listened all the way through, I'd love your feedback. And if it was annoying, if it was too scattered, if it was too long, then let me know that too. What you like to hear. I always want to hear from you. StandUpWithPete@gmail.com. I work for you if you pay me. Go to patreon.com/PeteDominic right now. Get a paid subscription if you haven't already. Upgrade if you'd like, if you can, for a month or two even. Or you could even Venmo me a cash bonus if you want. And that is in the show links. All the information about me and where to follow, where to subscribe, where to like and favorite. Also support all of our creative folks who do amazing things all the time, from Barry Hummel to Matty Carlson, of course, Jon Carroll, who sings and writes all of our music, sang to us on Thursday night. What a wonderful, talented group that we have. Okay, that's it. That's all. Jon Carroll, you got it.
When the tyrants taunt you and the sirens tease, you better stand up, stand up. Let the brave meet the challenge, let the meek weak flee. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. When you're tired of begging, saying pretty please, that's the time you gotta finally get up off of your knees. When you can't see the forest for the burning trees, you got to stand up. Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you gotta stand up, stand up. I think you're driving wheels been leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You gotta stand up, that's right. You got to rise up, you got to stand up, you got to stare the devil straight in the eye. You got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. So get up off of your butt, down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up. with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up. We got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up. You got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well, and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.